All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? First of all, I just want to say Happy New Year to everyone here in the group, as well as everyone watching. Hope you all had a great, fantastic end to 2022, and hopefully, you guys are having a good start to 2023. I know I'm excited for this year, what 2023 has in store for us. And yeah, so hopefully you guys had a fantastic New Year and holiday celebration over the course of the last 2 weeks, I would say, between Christmas and New Year's. But yeah, now it's time to get back on the grind, get back on the education here. So I'm excited. I hope you guys are doing well as well. But let's go ahead and get started here. Um, First things first, how I usually like to do this is I like to kind of start out with a clean slate, or at least go out to a larger time frame slash perspective and give you guys the larger view of what I'm looking at, and then kind of come up with possibilities or different variations of what could be happening from there. And then, once we have a little bit of more of a better idea what's going on in the larger time frame or the larger trend, then that's when I kind of like to zoom in and focus on the um I guess the more relevant time frame perspective of what we usually trade. Because usually I don't go out to this large of a time frame and make trades on here. Because if that was the case, I'd be making one every 2 months. So this is more of a macro swing position here, just to kind of give you a better idea or a better viewpoint of the larger macro trend in general. So first things first, I like to start off with. Let me just get the toolbar up here, is we're just going to be looking at the entirety of the bear market here. And for me, I like this a lot as a larger A, B, C, A, A, B, C, B. And this is going to be one larger A, B, C, C. I'll go ahead and draw the in-betweens here. Now, guys, while I'm sitting here presenting, I'm going to keep my eye out on chat, on the Discord, as well as on the stream here on the stream side. So if you guys have any questions while I'm going through my TA or going through my thoughts and stuff, please feel free to ask. I'll do my best to keep up with chat on both sides. So, but all the ABCs here in the yellow make up the ABCs on the larger blue scale here. So this is what I'm currently looking at. And once I have a better idea of how this is shaping up or how this could be shaping up, I'll go ahead and kind of focus in on the tail end of what's going on here. So for me, this is a one larger A to a B to a C. All right. Now, when I'm looking at this and what I see focused, or when I'm focusing on this area of price action here, to me, this looks like a completed A to a B to a C. All right. So according to how I view things, this could be a bottom. But let's just talk about the variations of what could be coming up here shortly, or what the possibilities are. Now keep in mind, these are just variations. I have set levels that I'm very focused on. And for me, if these levels are broken, reclaimed, I'll go ahead and go over the ones here. But I might have a little bit more of a bullish or bearish bias depending on how price respects certain levels. So for me, based on what I showed you guys before, this being the A of the ABC within the C, the most important thing for me to look at is, once I establish that A, I'm going to mark out that level as a very important pivot, right? That's gonna be around. No, I don't like that green. That's too late of a green. Come on, there you go. This is gonna be the macro pivot at around 17,600. So if price can get above and sustain above this level, what am I doing? Here you go. For me, that's going to be a little bit more. I'm going to be a little bit more bullish if we can maintain above that. But obviously, with these larger levels and how I view things, it's kind of a general area. Price is not going to respect it as much. There's going to be some room for price to definitely wiggle and bounce in between this region. So I don't expect price to 100% respect this region. So I am aware that this could be an area where price can bounce around and struggle to make a decision at first, and then but eventually it will get respected, whether it gets rejected and we continue lower, or if we can get a reclaim above it and push higher. That's definitely going to dictate my bias for the, I guess, for the medium to longer term time frame, depending on um, how long it plays in this region. So keeping that 17,600 in mind, that's going to be the macro pivot. And from there, I have to go into, or this is where I go into the main time frame slash perspective of how I usually view things. Once I establish that, I'm kind of taking a look at what's going on here. Let me just get rid of this. Move this out of the way. I'm taking a look at what's going on here, and for me, I have to kind of see if I can find different, I guess, setups or what is the main setup I'm looking at. And for me, actually, first, let me just go back here and first. So before I do that, I just wanted to just let you guys know, like I said before, this was an A to a B to a C. All right. So if that is the case, we do have a couple variations of what could be going on here. This C wave doesn't necessarily mean it's bottoming here. I'm just using this as a placeholder. There's a couple of things that could happen that could change where the C does bottom out. One of the things I'm looking at primarily is if this low here does not hold, right? If this low does not hold for me personally, I'm kind of viewing this as an ABCA, ABCB, and we have the potential to come down and break this low and potentially put in a lower low. I don't know how low it can go if we do decide to come down and break these levels, but I'm going to go over some of the things I'm looking for if this is the case. So for me, this is a very viable option of what could be playing out. So I'm going to mark that level at 15,450 around there, just in case price does decide to dump and we do cross back below here. So that's one of the variations. Another variation is I established this as an ABCB. One of the things I'm looking at as a potential is perhaps this is an A. We're working on some sort of B, and we're going to come up higher to put into C. Now, we don't necessarily have to put in a lower low to complete a B. This little wick right here can definitely be a potential B, and we can definitely come up and put in a higher high. So what I'm going to do is mark this out in red as a bearish ABC. All right. And from there, what could happen is we can get an extension of the B wave, have it be a little bit more established, and from there we can go ahead and come on. There we go. I don't know why I wasn't grabbing that for some reason. And for me, this can turn into a much larger B before continuing down lower, like I said, for the last possible variation and put in a lower low. So it depends really on how it evolves or how price evolves. But if you kind of take away some of the levels here or some of the other drawings I have on here, you can kind of see the more important levels that matter. And this is the goal when I try to do this. I try to give you guys the most important levels to look out for and to not give you too many variations, to not get confused and what could be happening. A lot of the times when you're navigating these ABCs, you'll find that sometimes these levels at prices can retest, can dictate the structure and how it develops, as well as it also gives you good potential to keep an eye out for potential trades in the future. So what I mean by that is, like I said before, this could be an A to a B to a C. Regardless if this B is the topped out here or we put in one more high, to me, it doesn't necessarily matter. I have a short position, which I'll go over what I'm currently taking down here, as well as we have the potential to put in a higher high and take another chance at a short up here. But regardless, the end result, what I'm looking for is a lower low pass at 15,400. So we'll have to see how this plays out. But you can see based on either the variation that I come up with or based on the main structure I'm looking at, you do come up with these important levels that price should come up and retest or should come down and retest depending on which direction you're trading. And from there, you'll be able to establish the next trade you want to take. So for me, that's a very important thing. That's a very important skill you guys should be able to learn. And it's something that you guys should be able to get a hang of once you guys have a lot of practice and a lot of exposure to ABCs. And you'll see that a lot of the times you're coming up with plans, you're coming up with different variations of what could be happening. You'll be surprised how it could be narrowed down to a couple levels. at least as price develops. Obviously, when new setups form, we kind of have to go back to the drawing board, wait for price to develop even further. But for the most part, it's pretty straightforward on how I view things and how I'm able to come up with a plan. Um, let me just take this level off the table, just because it's more macro position. But yeah, you guys can see these are pretty much the next two levels I'm looking for price to test, either up here or down here. From there, I'll take a trade accordingly. I'll show you guys as well the positions I'm currently holding. So as of right now, I'm currently holding a long from this region down here off of this ABC. All right, and that's at around like that 15,400. So it's pretty much at that line. Just that if we did put in a slightly lower wick, if I move this up to this entry here, you can barely see it, but that does count as a lower low, and it does count as a completed structure, in my opinion. So I took a long position on that, and I'm still currently holding that, as well as I am still currently holding a short off of this setup here, A to a B to a C. So as long as we're below the level here at about 17,445, and as well as we're above 15,460, I'm pretty much letting both positions play out, and whichever side prevails is, or at least for me in my position, I'm going to be walking with profit regardless if I get stopped out either direction. So we'll see how this plays out. I give you guys the levels I'm looking for. Hopefully we can catch another trade opportunity here soon. But that's pretty much it for BTC at the moment and what I'm currently looking at. I'm going to go ahead and move over to Ethereum, because it over the last, I guess, 20 or 12 hours, price has been moving a little bit. So I'll give you guys the levels I'm looking for just in case that price does continue to move in a direction here. Let's go over the larger time frame. All right, cool. I'm going to take a sip of water. Okay. So for Ethereum, same thing. I'd like to go on a larger perspective. I'll go out here even on like an 8-hour, give you guys the variations of what could be happening, and then from there we can get dissect the quote unquote smaller time frame / perspective. So for me, the first thing I'm looking for, the first thing I notice is that we do have an A to a B to a C down here. This looks complete. So what I will do is I will mark out the low here. And the reason why I'm marking out this low is because this ABC, when you put it next to the rest of this price action, looks like one A larger A wave. Okay. Now we have a potential for a larger B, and now it looks like we might be coming down and putting a lower C. All right. That's one variation. Still, the most important pivot for us to keep in mind is that 880, 879 region based off of this lowest wick down here. Another variation of what could be happening on a larger scale is that we could be doing something like this. Let me just erase this. To me, it looks like we have a potential to put in a larger A to a B to a C. If that's the case, I need ETH to get back above this high here at around 2026. If that setup can form and complete, for me, that's going to show a much larger completed B. All right. And if that does happen, if I take away that ABC off the chart and let's use this as a potential, if we come up here and break this high, the next logical step for me and how I view things is looks like we have the potential to put in one more low and complete a much larger ABC. Now, this might take up probably the entirety of the bear market, or this is a setup large enough to show how the rest of the bear market could be forming. All that matters at this point is it depends whether if ETH wants to come down slowly and put in at lower low, or if we do have another spike up. If we can't hold above that 2026, the potential for ETH to come down, put in or show weakness below this region and come down and put in a lower low does increase significantly, in my opinion. Doesn't necessarily mean that it will happen, but based on what I see, the probabilities of the bears coming up here, taking out this level, coming back down and possibly most likely putting in a lower low once you put in that higher high, to form something like this does increase significantly, in my opinion. Um, so with that, let's move on to the smaller perspective. Let's zoom in a little bit and give you guys the positions I'm in, and I'll also tell you guys what to look out for as well. So um, for me, based on what I see here, to me, this is one larger A wave. We have a larger B, and we have a C. Right. And for me, as long as ETH is above 1178, for me, this is a bullish area to be at, or this is for a bullish region for price to be at above 1170, 1176, 1178, depending on the chart you're looking at. But for me, as long as ETH is above there, I'm going to take longs and continue to take longs. I'm still holding a long from this position, as well as I'm just going to give you guys the positions I'm in, and I'll go over some of the things or some of the variations of the structure that we could be looking at here. So for ETH, I'm also currently short off of this setup here. Now, the reason why I'm marking this as a setup is because unlike BTC, ETH actually did not put in a lower low. If I draw a line based off of this region here, you can see it pretty much put in a double bottom. So we did not get a lower low there. So for me, that does not count as a completed structure. So I have to view this low as the end of the C wave, right? And so, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm back. I'm mixing myself up here. So this ABC is where I'm currently short off of as well. So as if we can maintain below that, there is some bearish pressure, but as you can see, we're kind of squeezing in this region here. Similar to BTC, it really depends on how it behaves. Regardless of which side it breaks out to, I'm going to be walking away with some sort of profit regardless. So for me, that's key. That's what I look for. I'm in a good position for ETH. So we'll kind of, at this point, I'm just waiting to see what happens. But I want to also go over some of the variations of what could be playing out here, just in case. So I marked this out as an ABC. This has a potential to be a larger A. We have another ABC here. Now, I didn't catch this at first. Unfortunately, I was not paying attention, and I did not realize that we put in a higher high. But if I go to this wick, I got to be exact on this. Hold on. Okay. You can see here, we put in a higher high without putting a lower low here. So to me, this completes a much larger ABC. All right. So this is a B wave. So the next step for me and what I'm seeing based on how this is forming or how this is playing out, looks like the next logical step is for price to come down and put in a lower low. Right. So ultimately, that's, I guess, the more important setup I'm looking at, the main setup. But there's also a couple of variations that could be playing out. The main variation that I'm looking at the moment is we have a potential for ETH to come in and put in an ABC within the C of its own to extend this B wave, put in another high, and then come down and put in a lower low. That to me is a much more significant setup. And I think that's a lot that calls for, I wouldn't say concern, but it definitely calls for a lot more bearish pressure to form up here. If we can't get up here and sustain above, if we come up here and fall back below, the chances of price coming down lower, most likely to test this lower region, which we talked about in the beginning, does increase significantly, in my opinion. But we'll kind of have to see how that plays out. I'm not really going to pay attention to the in-between structure, what's going on here. But like I said, with BTC, once we establish the variations, I can take away all the diagonals and all the trend lines here. And pretty much you can see the levels that are most important to me in my analysis. Is this low to be broken first or this high? If this high is broken first before this low, that still counts. But if we come back in and put in this low, and come back above, I'm going to take this off the table, or this red line here, because that is a completed structure in my opinion. But we could still come up and then continue to put in another low, if not break down lower. It really depends on how it plays out. So that's pretty much it for Ethereum. Let's see. I'm just gonna mark the levels out for you guys, as well as I'm just gonna just check up on chat quick. Come on. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Where's the Discord? Okay, looks like we're all good here. All right, awesome. All right, let's continue on. So let's go on LTC. So LTC has been playing out differently over the last 12 hours or so. It's because I got stopped out of a short position last night. That's the first time something I actually got. Well, the first time I've gotten stopped out in a very long time, probably a couple of weeks. But we do have, same thing, going out to a larger time frame, viewing what's going on with LTC. LTC has developed a little bit differently over the past year or so. To me, this looks like a larger A to a B to a C, or at least the C's, bottoming out here for now. But most likely, what I'm viewing or how I see this looks like a much larger potential ABC within the C. So this gives a chance for the wave to extend. Oh, come on. Extend and put in another low. That's probably the most viable option as of right now. So I'm kind of prioritizing shorts. And also, we'll see. I'll show you as well when we zoom into the regular trading perspective on how I view things. There's not really a bullish position to take for LTC at the moment. So I'm keeping that in mind, marking out this potential setup. In order for this setup to be valid, I need to get a lower low past the lowest wick here, which is at around $40.19. So I'm keeping an eye out on that just in case. But yeah, that's gonna mark out the larger structure of what I am viewing this as. So I'm going to get rid of these lines here, and we're going to move on to a little bit more zoomed in perspective just to show you guys the variations of what could be happening. All right. So now that we zoomed in, we established this as a possible much larger B. To me, this is a larger A to a B to a C. This connects, or this creates the larger B. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that the structure is done yet. All right, let me show you guys another variation of what could be happening. We could be getting an A to a B to a C here as well. And that can extend to put in its own ABC within the C. So, oh, nope. Yeah, so what could be happening is perhaps this is the A instead of up here. And we're getting we had a B. I'm sorry. What did I say before? I think I confused you guys. I'm sorry. I messed up here. I done goofed. So what I meant to say was this ABC was the A. Then we had a B. And then we finished the C. I'm sorry. That's what I meant to say. I messed up in the beginning. This was the main structure I'm looking at, but there's a potential for this C wave to come out, put in its own ABC, and extend to a further to another high before we can get a larger potential larger push to the downside. So if that is the case, the main level I'm looking to trade, or I'm looking to take a short at, is around that 85.33, but doesn't necessarily have to get that high. If we don't get that high, I'm going to continue to trade off of this setup here. Basically the ABC within the yellow ABC. That's the main structure, regardless if it comes out. I mean, if we come in and put in a new high, I will take that 85.50 trade. If not, if we do not put in a new high, I'm going to continue to take a short off of this region here around 73.39. And from there, I'm going to be targeting much larger potential lows. Okay. So that's pretty much it for LTC. Unfortunately, there's no bullish position in my opinion. Um, maybe if we come back down and put in something like this, if we put in a larger ABC here, if we don't come up and surpass the 85.62, that has potential. Maybe I'll consider taking a long position if that is the case. But until that happens, I really don't see a larger bullish setup that I'm willing to take, in my opinion. So um, that's pretty much it for LTC. I'll take a look at Matic just because I am in a Matic position. I'll let you guys know what I am doing on Matic. The same thing. I like to go out to larger perspective slash time frame. Look at this as a larger trend. Now, I don't have. I mean, there's another chart I can get with previous price action, but for me, this is the most important. What I'm looking at. You have a larger A to a B to a C here, and that this I know it's a steep drop for Matic, but there is a potential to come back down and put in this much larger completed bullish structure. The only reason why I'm kind of anticipating this is because Matic has how do I say this? Matic has been involved in NFTs, or there's been a lot of NFTs built off the Matic network. And for me and how I view things, NFTs aren't necessarily doing well, and they're probably not going to continue to do well. So I think Matic could, suffer from that on a larger scale. And based on that, as well as the structure here, I'm kind of anticipating that larger drop. And that's just my opinion. I also have the setup to back it up or back up that idea. The setup is going to be off of this ABC here, which in turn does, complete a larger potential B wave before continuing lower, like I showed you guys just before. I also want to go over the actual trade I'm in. I did not take this position up here, unfortunately. Kind of have to zoom in and show you guys the position I got into. So there is a bearish ABC here. Basically, as long as you're below that 89.17, there's definitely a lot more bullish pressure as well as you have the larger ABC, the bearish ABC, to kind of back that up and give you more, I guess, not support, but give you more a bit larger potential momentum to the downside, in my opinion. It definitely shows signs of weakness. So for me, I took a trade. I did not get the best entry. I got in like around 88, 88.19, somewhere around there. So I'm still currently holding that. I'm looking for much, much larger downside. At the very least, the lower low past 31.67. There is I could play devil's advocate and say there is a potential larger bullish setup for Matic. But like I said, the size of this setup here does not outweigh the larger the larger bearish setup, which I mentioned before. So I'm going to be prioritizing the bears on Matic because of that, and just in case we do put in a much larger lower low. I'll take a look at one more. I know BNB has been popular here. If you guys want to look at something else, I'll give you guys a moment to ask. I'm gonna take a sip of water. All right, I'll take a look at BNB unless anyone else has something else you want me to look at. But let's go with BNB for now. Absolutely. Uh, that is a fantastic question. So I'm just gonna just reiterate that just because so people in chat might didn't hear it. So basically he's just asking if ABCs are a method in itself, or is it do I include Elliott wave theory in my analysis? So the ABC method is a actual variation of Elliott wave theory. Um, LA theory, I'm sure if you have a basic understanding of how it works, you basically have your impulse waves, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have your ABC pullbacks here. Um, Long story short, I can definitely go into more if you'd like, but there's a book I read. It's called The Case for Modification of RNN LA Wave Theory by Ian Copsley. If you want, I can send you the link to the book. I might have a digital version of it if you are interested. But basically, what he calls for is saying that the problem with LA Wave Theory, yeah, I'll definitely when the stream's over, just remind me, DM me after we're done here, and I'll go ahead and send it to you if you want to. It's a hard to read though. I'm just gonna let you know now. It's a very tough read. Um, there's a lot of numbers. It's very methodical. It's very like detailed. But basically, what the overall message of the book is that traditional LA wave theory is very complicated. There's a lot of rules involved, and there's a lot of the problem with getting too detailed in trading, especially when it comes to LA wave theory, is that there's a lot of projections, there's a lot of expectations of where certain waves should go. And so what he does is basically say that instead of looking at things from a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 perspective, try viewing things as ABCs, or if you're more advanced in LA wave theory, WXYs, because WXYs are pretty much this it's the in-betweens that matter. So with ABCs, technically it's like a 335. I'm not too familiar with it. I know it's like a I don't remember exactly, but it's something where the in-between waves are made of three waves, and then the C wave has an impulse structure. Like I said, I'm not an expert at this, but there's a lot of complications when it comes to traditional other wave theory. And so his claim or his message in the book is that if you kind of take a step back and view things from an ABC perspective instead of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 perspective, you'd be surprised on how much easier it is to analyze and read the charts. And I took it a step further. Is one of the most important I guess themes when it comes to trading is more doesn't equal better. If you trying to complicate or you're trying to trade a certain strategy to a T where it has too many rules, too many expectations, you're going to have a lot harder of a time being successful, because you'll find out that price doesn't necessarily respect those rules and expectations exactly. And it probably never will. So instead of viewing it from that perspective, ABCs and how I do them is basically all I'm doing is allowing price to give me levels that matter. So in this method, instead of viewing things from an impulse wave and a ABC pullback traditional wave or traditional mind or standpoint, all we're doing is we're looking at trends, identifying trends in groups of threes. And all you're doing is once you establish, let's say in this case, an ABC to the upside, all you're doing is shorting when price gets back below the origin of the A. Okay. And then vice versa for long positions. If you have an ABC to the downside, all right, once price gets back below the A, what you're going to do is wait for price to get back above. And from there, you're going to be taking long positions at that region. And basically, that's showing signs of strength, and that gives you larger, I guess, there's a larger chance that price can definitely reverse and push higher based off of that setup there. That's the easiest way to explain it. But I don't use fibs. Yeah, no problem. There's a lot. So I do not. At one point, while I was using this strategy, I did as kind of like an area to take profit. What we would do is basically take an established ABC. In this case, it's this one here. All right. And what we would do is you pull the fibs from the top to the bottom or bottom to the top, and you basically take profit around the 0.5 to 0.441 region. That can work. The only problem is on the scale that we do it, we take much larger positions, or we take positions off of larger, more macro levels or levels that are more important. And so what ends up happening is a lot of the times when you're taking those trades and let's say you take profit, a lot of the times you're taking profit too early. So um you miss the potential of catching the larger move. In this example, this is a perfect example here. We have an ABC. And let's say you use the typical fib method to take profit. You would have taken profit around here. And unfortunately, if I take this out, you would have missed out on the majority of the move to the downside. And now you're going to be fighting to find a new short position. Or you might be just waiting in general just for another position to take. Luckily, you know, over the course of trial and error, over the course of let's say the last year or so, how we take profit or how I'm going to take profit going forward is something called the continuation method. So I'll give you a brief example. Actually, I can use the same setup here. Let me just clear this chart. So we do have an AVC, which a short I did take. All right. So basically, every time price got below the A pivot, I would be shorting. I did not get stopped out. And pretty much all you're gonna do is you're gonna hold that trade until you get another bearish position that's similar in size and similar in perspective to the original one that you were trading. So the one that we took was this one here. All right. So now what you're doing is one, you're giving yourself another opportunity to catch another leg to the downside. So at the time, we didn't know if price is going to continue to pump from here. But based on probabilities of the setup that it was showing us, you can see that we kind of danced around this region before making a decision. At the time, we were hoping for a continuation downwards. So one, you get a larger percentage or a larger chance of catching that continuation move, as well as you're taking profit and locking in the profits you made from this position. And so what happens if you take this position and it fails, worst case scenario, you wait for another one to show up, or price continues to move against your original direction or in the favor of your original trade. And from there, you would have locked in the profit as well as you have to wait for another short setup. But it gives you an extra layer of security when using this take profit method because you don't know where price is going to go. Even still to this point, you can see price is kind of respecting that level. Obviously, we had to move our entry up here because we had a much larger potential position to take. But as of now, as of where we stand, we have a potential to come back down further, as well as, I did mark out a potential position up here as another short. But if it, worst case scenario, if it all fails, we still made profit off of this position. Even if we tried to take a couple positions up here, we're still walking away with profit. Yet it's not the most, you're not going to make the most profit using this method, but you're going to make the most consistent and definitely you're going to be making the smartest trading decisions to help, how do I say this, propel you into more consistent in growth over the longer term. That's the most important thing I focus on, and that's the most important thing I think everyone should be focusing on. Is it's not the actual profit itself; it's security, making good decisions, and consistency. If you can find a method that combines all of those, you're going to do a lot better over the course of time, and you're not going to be sitting there trying to chase the most amount of profit possible. Because in a realistic, I guess, frame of mind or a realistic way to look at this, it's like you're not going to be timing every single top. You're not going to be timing every single bottom. So that was a very long way to answer. Yeah. Like I said, this message me on Discord after we're done here. I'll send you the book. As well as if you don't, I'll send you the link to the YouTube channel because I stream on my YouTube channel 3 times a week. Um, I'm not sure if you're subbed or not, but if you aren't, I invite you to come by the live streams and ask any questions you might have, as well as I can go over anything if you might have any future questions or if you want me to look at something. Yeah, no problem. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on to BNB unless anyone else has any other questions. Let me just double check the chat end on stream. Okay, we're good here. I'm just gonna do BNB quick, and then we're gonna move on to traditional markets. Um, oh, great question. So let me go back to BTC for an example. So he's just asking me about stop losses, where I set my stop losses. So no worries. This, yeah, no. It's great questions. I don't mind asking. This is the place where we do it. You know, this is give you opportunity for you guys to come in and ask good questions. So I'm gonna go just touch on take prop. Another great question. So, that kind of goes hand in hand. I'll show you exactly how I do it. So, my goal with stop losses is to focus on R&R is to and also to give myself um enough breathing room for price to actually, how do I say it? Give price enough room to bounce around and not get stopped at every time. So, because we're lower price regions down at like 16K, unfortunately, it's a lot easier for price to move 1% in any direction than it is for price to move 1% when you're up at 69, 70K. So up here, when we were up in this region, I was using about a 1% stop on chart, regardless of the trade. I'll plot it here. All right. So 1% stop, and then I pretty much I at the time I wasn't using the best take profit methods, but I pretty much took profit like right down here. So that was a nice 36 R&R trade. Um, but unfortunately, as you can see, when I move down here, I'm not changing the chart at all, but you can see the actual stop loss percentage is changing as we continue to move down here. So if we were to go to like where we are right now, the equivalent to using a 1%. Actually, well, I have to change this because the actual chart, the actual trade. Oh, come on. I hate when it does this. The actual trade R&R does change. So one of the things I try to tell people is when we're down in these lower price regions, don't be so aggressive because it's a lot easier for price to move against you. So you have to give your position a little bit of breathing room. As of right now, at this current price point where we're at, I'm using about a 3% stop loss. And when it comes to take profit, I'm just waiting for the next potential setup to form in order for me to take profit. Um, but that's pretty much what I'm using at the moment. We were up here I'm using 1%. And I guess when you're kind of in this region, the middle region, you can use about like 1.5 to 2%. If we continue lower, like that 10K region, I might have to increase that a little bit to like a 3.5. But how I do things is I'm also risking about the same. So I'm risking about 3% on my account here, which is not the best move in my opinion. But I'm using a aggressive account and trying to grow that aggressively. So it's kind of money I don't necessarily care about. I'm willing to lose it. If you guys are trading with your main stack, and it's all you got, I don't necessarily recommend you using a 3% risk, or at least don't go or you can get close to that, but don't go above 3% because especially if you're trading multiple coins at the same time, you're gonna be spreading yourself very thin. So that's my typical word of advice is try to, if you're going to use 3% stop loss or close to it, limit yourself to like 1 or 2 coins at a time. Don't be trying to take trades on every single altcoin that you have on your list using the 3% risk, 3% stop loss on chart. And then this ties into the leverage question. So let me go to, I'll send you the link to this, but basically this is my friend came up with a algorithm to help calculate proper leverage, proper risk, and all that. And somebody turned it into a very useful, easy to use UI. So all you're gonna do is I'll give you a brief introduction to how to use the risk reward calculator. Can you guys on Discord? Can you guys see the screen, or is it still locked in on the chart? Okay. Okay. So all you're gonna do is you're gonna put in your account size. Let's say you got 500 bucks. All right. And then the most important thing to keep an eye on is your percent portfolio at risk, as well as the leverage it gives you, and making sure that your stop loss matches what you're using in your trades. So in this case, I'm using 3%. Let's say I have 500 bucks. I'm risking 3% with a 3% stop loss, so everything checks out. So the beauty about this is that leverage is just a tool. There's no set leverage that I can use or you can really use. The most important thing to keep an eye on, because you can change these numbers. I can go 3%. You see how I changed the margin size? It changes the portfolio at risk. All I have to do is just change this area to 50%. It could be different as well, or I can use 100%, and you still get the same risk, but the leverage has changed. Let's say I want to use 12, like 12.25 is the right. Yeah. So I can risk 12% of my margin, use 12% margin, 25% risk. Now it's giving me 8x leverage. I'm still risking the same amount with the same amount of stop loss. I did not change these numbers. So that's the beauty when it comes to leverage and how to making sure you're using the right risk is if you have a calculator like this, it doesn't really matter which leverage you use. Me personally, how I view things, I like to not use that much margin. So what I will do is I will use like either 6%, 50%, something like that, or I'll do let's see 75. I think was it 4? Yeah, or I'll use 4% margin, 75% risk, so it'll give you about 25x leverage. Like I said, if you guys want this, I'll go ahead and send you the link, but the URL is here. Um, definitely this tool is a it's a necessity. It's not even essential. If you want to be successful at trading, you have to use this because you have to be able to adjust your risk. So let's say you lose a position. So you would lose 15 bucks, so 45, and you lose another one, so 14 and a half. Yeah, no, so that's on the trade itself. So if I go to um what exchange do you use? Do you use Bybit? Do you use I'm curious to see. All right, so on Bybit, you know how if you open up a position, oh, I don't know if I should have done that. Hold on. Sorry. I can't log into Bybit right now cuz it's going to mess with the stream because of the VPN. But you know how if you go to do you have a trade open by any chance or no? Okay. Okay. Okay, so I'll okay. So, in the actual position itself, you know how you can set like like a stop loss for it? Like if you click on the trade itself and there's a button to hit set stop loss slash take profit, you can set levels for it. So if you click on that and you click on the stop loss region, Bybit gives you a set amount, like different numbers to use. You can use 15%, 50%, 75%. You know what I mean? Like it gives you set values you can use for your stop loss. That's what this is down here. So it makes it a lot more. You can use it. You can use any number you want, but for me, it just makes it a lot more streamlined. So all I have to do is, once I get the correct margin in, just go into to the stop loss section and just hit 75%, and it should equate to the same number, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's just from a streamlined perspective. It makes things a lot easier for me once I'm in a trade. Yeah, I said I'll go ahead and if you guys are okay, okay, yeah. Like I said, if you have any, if you have any, yeah, no problem. Yeah, yes, just send me a DM when we're done here, and then I will get it out to you. Because I'm probably gonna forget. No worries. Like I said, if you have any other questions as we're going along here, please feel free to ask. That's where we're here to do. And some people might have the same questions as you as well, so it allows me to hopefully answer different questions people or the same questions other people might have. So it's great, it's fantastic. But thank you, I appreciate it. Let's go ahead and talk about BNB real quick. So BNB's almost as a similar setup as in Matic. We do have this ABC here. All right. And so there's a little more bearish pressure, but it's playing out a little bit differently. We do have a nice size bullish setup here. So as long if it's kind of this area to where price can definitely battle. But if BNB can get back above 249 and a half, 249.50 and stay above there, I'm definitely gonna be a little bit more bullish. But for me, I have to prioritize the larger structure, and in this case, it's going to be the shorts. So we'll have to see how this plays out. The ultimate low to get past if BNB decides to, it's been that 183.10. If we can get back below there, that's definitely going to show a much larger ABC. Especially if I go to a 4-hour. To me, this is going to be a very significant sized ABC in my opinion. So I'm going to be prioritizing that just for me and how I'm viewing things at the moment. Like I said, there is that bullish structure here, but I'm not going to put too much weight behind it. That's just me personally. It definitely could come up, put in another high, but I'm not too concerned with that at the moment, just because I'm prioritizing the larger bullish structure. Or sorry, bear structure. That's going to be it for that. I'll go ahead and move on to traditional markets. Oh, that's all right. We're going to do the SPY. All right. So I've had this on my chart for months now, and pretty much nothing has really changed. Um, from a larger term perspective, a larger scale, as long as the S&P is above that 362.25, that's going to be a much larger bullish level to hold, in my opinion. That's definitely a more macro level for me to be a little more bullish on. There is a good amount of support down below, so it can definitely fall back through. But at the moment, that looks like a larger completed ABC. I'm not saying this is going to be a case, but I'm looking at this from a little bit more zoomed in perspective. We do have, it looks like one larger trend here. We're kind of pulling back. We have the potential to come up and put in another high. If that is the case, I talked about this before. This is going to put in a much larger A to a B to a C. If this bearish ABC does form, I'm going to be a lot more bearish on the larger term scale. And to me, doesn't necessarily have to happen, but for me, I'm going to be a lot more confident in shorts if we can come up to this region and put in a higher high. But if we come in and push through it without putting in bearish reversal, the next step once we break this past this resistance is going to be a test of the most recent high at 479.95 or 480 if you want to round up. So that's the most important level I'm looking at, or those are the setups I'm looking at for the S&P. Let's see. Dow Jones. Dow Jones is pretty much the same. Very similar. So that you know what? That actually you just reminded me. There's a great segue to another point I wanted to make. Um, so there's potential for both sides at this point. The only thing I'm keeping in mind, and I'm basing this off of, I guess, more of a local low perspective, like local support off of the previous bull market. So one of the things I realized over the course of like practice and throughout the years is that these larger uptrends or mostly uptrends have these pullbacks, and these pullbacks become levels of support for when the next bear market comes. Price will do a decent job respecting these levels here. They're pretty much I call them local lows. All you're doing is tracing uptrends, and basically once an uptrend has a pullback and that pullback ends, that's the bottom of the local low. So all you're doing is just connecting these. This is I used to trade this way before ABCs, but on a much larger macro scale, I will take the local lows into consideration, especially if we're coming down to form new lows, just because there's no prior support. As you can see from down here, if we break through past this low here, there's nothing back until we come back to this region. So using that method, I'm looking at this trend here. To me, there is nothing significant support wise until we get back down to like that 9,800 to 10K region, kind of like in this area here. So for me, as well, I do prioritize ABCs and I always will. So, like I said before, if we come back down below 15.5 and we come back above, that's going to be a bullish, possible bullish reversal, in my opinion. But if we come back down and we can't hold that 15.5, especially when we're back below this local low at 16.6 or 16.2, sorry, that increases the chances and the probabilities of price that not go exactly down to 9K, but I think come back down to like the low tens, low to high tens, 10 to I'd say, okay, let me give you more exact range. Mid tens to low 11s, that region. Not saying it will, but the probabilities increase. And that's kind of how I view when view supports and view potential bottoms as price develops. A perfect example of that, when we were back here, one of the things I looked at was this local low here and pretty much said the same thing. Like, if price can't hold above 43K, we're looking like we're going to come down and test 28. And everyone and their mother thought I was crazy for thinking that. It took a while, but eventually they'd come back down and test 28K. So that's how like I said, that's just how I view things when there's no prior or there's no previous support or significant support. In this case, if 15.5 doesn't hold, the next logical step is to come down and test that, lower region between 11 to the mid 10s. So that's just how I view things when it's not ABC related. And to me, it's worked out. Doesn't mean it's exact, but I view things based on probabilities. And for me, the probability of price coming down, if price can't hold, increases significantly. But if we come back down, put in a lower low, come back above, that's going to show a massive sign of strength, in my opinion. And I think Bitcoin can do well if it does do that. It can also do well in this region too. It really depends. I hope that answered your question. Awesome. No problem. Um, all right. But yeah, even though I do talk about like stock markets and all that stuff, there is some sort of correlation. I do understand that. But for me, it's it can paint a picture for you, but I like to view things just on its own. Each chart is a new clean slate for me. Um, if there is some sort of correlation, um, I can probably find out through BTC's chart where it could go if that's the case. If let's say if traditional markets are, let's say, going to do bad this year, it's probably going to reflect in Bitcoin's price. And to be honest, like I said, if BTC does continue to go down, I think it's going to drop way more aggressively than traditional markets will. So taking those ideas into consideration, I think the odds of BTC coming down to those, the 10 to 11K region, it definitely does increase significantly. But until then, I kind of have to wait and see how price respects those levels of support. Um. So yeah. So we do have a potential ABC for the Dow Jones. So if we can put in one more high, get back below, definitely shows signs of weakness, in my opinion. And I could be looking at this as a larger potential A to a B to a C. But that's pretty much it for the Dow Jones. I mean, we do have levels of support, but I'll wait to see how price respects that going forward. Let's see how the DXY, because I'm okay. This is very Me personally, I don't actively trade stocks. I do buy and hold them. So, like for example, like with for Apple, Apple is I actually bought a share of Apple not too long ago. I think it was like yeah, the end of last week. I bought a share when we were at that 129 region. And so I'll use that to kind of buy and hold because for me, Apple's in a very interesting pivot. It's pretty much testing the macro A. So the if we can maintain above that, the possibilities of price going higher do increase. But like I said, I don't actively trade. I just kind of look for buy and hold positions. Um, so when it comes to trading, I'm trying to think. Um, I've used TD Ameritrade in the past. I know it's are you in you're in Australia or yeah, I'm not sure if Australia has different brokers or if you can use TD Ameritrade in Australia, but that's the one I've used in the past. It's decent. Trying to think of what else. Yeah, I when it comes to stocks, I pretty much set alerts. Like I'll set an alert based on the level that I'm looking for. And once that level hits, I'll just go on to like my broker site and just buy a share or sell a share depending on the direction. Um, but yeah, going back to what I was saying before with the DXY. So the DXY is in a very interesting spot. So I want to clear this just to show you what I'm looking at. So the DXY, if you go to like you can go into a daily. Actually, maybe a 2 day because it's gonna be a little crunched. If you go to a 2 day, we have a very ginormous A B C here. A to a B to a C. I'm counting all this as an A, or sorry, as a C. And this ABC A, ABC B, and an ABC C is going to be one part or all um part of the C wave. Excuse me, I don't know why I couldn't that just didn't come out of my mouth for some reason. Um, but this is all part of the C wave. So in that situation, in this case, I do look at this sometimes. I like to trade into the C wave. If that is the case, if the DXY holds below 103, 83, 84, this could be interesting. The DXY definitely shows signs of weakness. Now, I'm not saying that this is the exact level it's going to respect. Keep in mind, we're on a 2 day, pretty zoomed out. I think price definitely has wiggle room to kind of bounce around in this region. But if we drop significantly below 103, there's going to be some bearish pressure on the DXY or on the dollar. So obviously, with the inverse correlation, um, that's between assets and the dollar. I think there's a potential. You could make a case for potential bullishness when it comes to assets in general. I'm not saying how much or how far that can go. You know, is it going to take BTC to all new all time highs? Probably not. But I'm going to take that into consideration when looking into the potential for BTC and just other assets in general. I think things could reverse here. I'm not saying it's going to, but based off of this very ginormous ABC, the potential is definitely there. If I go down to a little bit, if you want me to break this down a little bit more, um, there is a bullish case scenario for the DXY. This is one giant C. You do have the potential for this playing out. Where is it? I'm gonna go within the C wave because this is an A, this is a B, and everything from here on out, from the high here down, is gonna be a C wave. It's A B. This is kind of tough because it's very choppy. I'm going to say for safety reasons, that's gonna be my setup. If the DXY can get back above 105, that's gonna show signs of strength for the dollar. Um, but we'll really have to see how it behaves in this region. Like I said, the macro ABC is at that 103. So if we significantly uh push through it, push down past it, that's not looking good for the dollar, in my opinion. So take that as you will. I think it's going to be potential bullish. a potential bullish setup for assets coming, but we'll have to see how it evolves and how it behaves. ES, same thing. ABC 3640 is the pivot. We do have a larger potential for another push to the upside, something like that before coming down and continuing further, or something like this happening. That's definitely in the cards, but I need to see a higher high be made first. But that's I'll mark that level for you guys. Keep an eye out on. That's going to be the bullish, the bearish case scenario. If we come back above, we can't hold. That's definitely a larger potential reversal, in my opinion. Let's do. I want to do Tesla because I haven't looked at Tesla. All right, this is something I mentioned on the last time we were here. Actually, yeah, I mentioned this briefly the last time we were here. But same thing when it comes to BTC. Once a structure breaks significantly, I have to go back in previous price history to look for areas of support. Now, unfortunately, these three areas of support is kind of like a pocket region. So, in how I view things, this is going to be a pocket level of support. As you can see, Tesla pretty much came down to the last wick there. See, almost exact because that line's a little bit off. Yeah, it almost came down exactly and bounced off of that. So, as of right now, there is some significant support for Tesla around this, like this 109 to 1. What is this high? 126 region. So, wouldn't be a bad. I'm not financial advice, but if you're looking to pick up some Tesla, this wouldn't be a bad area to do so. Just tread lightly, just because there is one more layer of support at around $90.35. But if that doesn't hold, guys, the next stop is going to be $23. So, or at least the potential possibilities, the probabilities to come down and test the lower region here. Like I said, it's not going to be exact. It's probably going to be a threshold, like an area that's around here somewhere. So I think it could happen. But we'll have to see how it plays out one level at a time. I might pick a share up at $90 if we come back down there, but a good buy position would probably be around like 23.50, 23.47, or anywhere in this region if we can get down to it. But from an ABC perspective, there's nothing significant until we get back up to 207, unless we come in and put in another set of ABCs within the C. So something like this. If we come up, put in a nice uptrend, put in a lower low, that'll be a good bullish reversal to take, or bullish setup to take, or or a buy position, regardless if you're looking at Tesla. But until that happens, there's nothing significant from an ABC perspective. Let's do. I'm just gonna do gold and silver, and then I'll go ahead. I think, and we'll just touch on any last questions, or if anyone else wants me to look at anything. But let's go ahead and talk about gold here. So pretty much the most important thing I'm focusing on for gold is we do have a larger ABC within the A. We have a larger ABC within the C. And ultimately, I'm kind of looking for a push higher. If that is the case, we do have the bear set up at 2076. That's the pivot I need to be crossed in order for me to be a little bit more bearish. If that is the case, sorry. I also want to mention this as well. We're above that A at 1677, so there is some bullish pressure down here. I'm looking for at least a retest up to 2076. Now I know you guys see another red line. I'm just going to point this out. There is a much larger pivot, but when it comes to these, multi-decade ABCs, like I said, you got to give price a little bit of breathing room here. There's probably going to be a potential of a price to definitely range in this region and establish its own setup in this region itself. And from there, you can use that as confirmation. That's what I'm doing. I'm personally waiting for the ABC within the C, which is the blue one here, to finish. And then from there, I can be a little bit more bearish on gold. But so far, gold's looking decent for at least another push up, but we'll have to see how it behaves. Let's see. Let's do silver. Silver's in a very Also, similar situation. I need to go to like a 2-day. Ultimately, there's a couple things that could happen. We do have an ABC as an A. We have a potential for a larger ABC, which you can see here. I drew in the blue already for a B, and then we can come down, put in another lower low to complete a much larger A, B, C. So, keeping that in mind, I'm gonna mark out the important pivots to keep an eye out on. If I can move all this junk out of here. Let's do that. This is an important pivot down here, so we need to get back below 1157, as well as we have a bearish pivot up here. But if we come back above and we push through it, the next bearish pivot is going to be 49.89. And if I go to like a 3-day, that is coming off of this structure here. So we'll kind of have to see how price develops in the future. Unfortunately, all I can do is give you guys the levels that are most important to me, and then we can go on from there and wait and see how price develops and take potential trades as we see them. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I got for you guys. Unless you guys have any questions or anything you want me to look at, now is the time to ask. Like I said, we're just wrapping things up here. But I do appreciate every single one of you for stopping by and hanging out, listening to what I have to say, and asking great questions. Oh, Vlad's in the house. Vlad, you want me to do BMW? Oh, geez. You doing all right? Oh man. I did do Tesla before. Um, yeah, pretty much the long story short for Tesla is that we're in a pocket of support. Um, so it's a decent time to buy. It's not the almost the best, but I do like it. But I'm gonna be waiting for another like bullish ABC to form before I can get a little bit more confident for the bulls for Tesla. That's a long story short for that. But I will do BMW just because me and Vlad have a tradition here. We like to look at. Oh, we're pumping. Let's see. So for pretty much for BMW, I'm gonna go off of the the COVID dump low. For me, this is a larger ABC to an A. We have another. Well, okay, we do have a potential A here, but I want to go ahead and go over the pieces of the puzzle here. So one of the things I'm looking at is we do have this setup here. All right. And what this does is this creates a larger potential ABC within the C. Or sorry, this is going to create a larger ABC within the B. So we have an A to a possible B to a C. Right. Now I'm going to do my best to kind of keep this clean, not too cluttered. So the reason why I'm coming up with this is because ultimately I'm looking for something like this. All right. I need this low at around 67.57 to be broken and then reclaimed. And from there, I can go ahead and look for another pivot higher. Doesn't necessarily have to happen. I can play devil's advocate and say that this is just one completed ABC, and maybe BMW is due for a much larger correction to the downside. Maybe we just continue lower. We don't necessarily have to put in that bullish setup and pump up. Another thing that could be happening is this could be just one A, this could be a B, this could be a C. If it continues to pump and if we don't get back below and stay below this pivot at 84.58, me personally, um, that's going to be the next logical step for me. Is I need to see either this level fail and come back below and take out this low, which I'll mark out in the green, Or if we push past this high, come up, put in one more high, and then we can be a little bit more bearish on the larger scale. But yeah, it's pretty much it for BMW. We'll have to wait. Vlad's gonna have to wait till he buys his cars. All right. That's gonna pretty much wrap it up for what I have to say for now. I gave you guys all the levels that I'm looking for. Um, I if you guys are in the group, I invite you to check out if you go to I have my own section of the Discord. If you go under trading strategy setups, you're gonna see Johnny setups there. I give you guys updates on the positions I'm taking, as well as I'll let you guys know when I'm streaming on my YouTube channel. So if you guys are in the group here, you guys can come on by, ask questions, and we can hang out, go talk ABCs. But yeah, like I said, as well as I have my own Discord group as well. If you guys are interested in that, you get access to tutorial videos. I will go ahead and pop it up here. Actually, no, I can't do that because it's gonna take me out of the call. Um, but if you guys are interested, if you check out my YouTube link, there's a Patreon link in the description. I'll show you guys if you guys are interested. But like I said, it's not required. You guys are here hanging out, asking great questions. We're having a good time. That's all I can really ask for. So I really do appreciate every single one of you who stopped by to hang out, ask good questions, and just listen to what I had to say. Thank you guys. Thank you, William. Thank you, Vlad. Thank you, David. All right. I'll catch you guys. So, guys, I'll be on here once a week. Most likely, William's going to be the same time pretty much for now, right? And unless I have extra ones I want to do. All right. Sounds good. Yeah. So, I'll be here. Oh, sorry, William. Continue. I was just gonna say I'm gonna be on here once a week around the same time on Mondays. And as well as if there's some exciting stuff that's going on, I'll definitely pop in and do like another stream or two, depending on what's going on here, and we can go ahead and talk about it, and you guys can ask me questions and stuff on how I view things. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. All right, bye bye, everyone.